Wanna grab that one by yourself?
No, can I?
50 pounds. Got it? Don't hurt yourself. Want help?
Nope. I don't want help. I can do it.
If the bag's awkward, it's like a 100-pound bag with 50 pounds in it.
No, I got it.
Yep. All right.
See, girl power.
All set. Just got to get the spreader.
Come here,
and then we'll
Bubba.
get to planting.
I get to take it to the plot. I may have to go around the property to get there. I'm just saying.
She loves that thing. All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to be planting 1 acre of iron clay peas. And I actually let my friend Joe the farmer know that I was planting iron clay peas. And he said, oh, you mean cow peas? So some of you may know them as cow peas instead of iron clay peas. So we got this 1 acre plot in the back of Piney Grove. And what we're going to be doing is showing you how we're going to use 2 different methods to plant. We've got the tiller on back of the Kubota L3901. And we've got a disc harrow on back of the Summit TX25. Okay, Deb just brought me the seed because she's got something else that she's going to do today.
I do. I get to go play on my Spunky, my 0 turn, my Kubota ZD10110 turn. So he gets to play out here. I'll be playing out front.
We'll go over the equipment once I bring it all out here and get started. But last night I did a test strip with the Summit TX25 with their disc harrow, and it's a 5-foot disc harrow. It's fixed gang, so it's not adjustable. It's got sealed bearings, so you don't have to grease it. But I wasn't sure if this ground was really tillable with a disc harrow. And that's because we have a lot of clay in our soil, and a lot of times in this particular plot, we'll get kind of like a hard pack on top when we get dry. But we had a big rain event, and I thought maybe that I could disc it, but if not, my backup would always be the tiller. I can always use the tiller in any kind of conditions. Even if this was rock hard like concrete, I could bring the tiller in here and just work it slow, and it may dust in the seeds, but I could get the seeds under dirt and get that good soil to seed contact. But because we had moisture, we were able to disc this up, and I did a couple passes up here where there's more clay and over there where there's more sand. And the reason I want to disc is you'll notice disking leaves it a little rougher. And last year we plowed this field for the first time ever. So this was all planted pine trees. And when we cleared this, we were naturally left with some really poor soil because we have poor soil here in North Florida. We didn't have a big, thick layer of topsoil. So for the past few years, I've been growing things, bush hogging it, just kind of tilling it into the soil, developing the soil, improving the soil. But last year we took that layer of thatch with a 2-bottom plow and we turned it over. So we took that thatch we'd been building on top and put it underneath about 4 or 6 inches of dirt just to kind of build up the organic matter. And now what we're trying to do is rebuild that top layer of organic matter. We planted grains in here last fall, and then 2 weeks ago we came in here and brush hogged it so that those grains wouldn't go to seed. And now we have all that grain thatch here on top. And land always wants to be growing something. We want it to grow what we want it to grow. So we're going to be planting iron clay peas, and what they are is a legume. They have a symbiotic relationship with the air and with the soil. So they'll be grabbing nitrogen from the air, putting it into the soil. And if the deer don't come in here and wipe them out, they're a long, viney stem with lots of foliage. Later on this summer or early fall, we should have a lot of organic matter that we can till in and start the process all over again. So the first step is, now that I know that the soil is tillable, is I'm just going to spread the seed across here on top, and then we'll do a little tilling, we'll do a little disking, and we'll get this thing planted. If you didn't know this already, I'm going to show you a little trick. So most of these bags are going to come with a tab on them. So you want to get the single string to the right side and then grab that tab, and then that just kind of unravels that string and you can get to what's inside the bag without tearing up the bag. But what if you don't have that tab? Let me show you. So on the bottom of the bag is a different type of sewing strip, and one side has a single string and then the other side has whatever it takes for that sewing to hold it together, so multiple strings. So if you take this single string and put it to your right side, and I say single string on the right opens bag without freight. I know it's silly, but that's how I remember it, and I've remembered it since being a child. But I just cut the end right there, and then I start it, and once you start it, I'm pulling on the string on the back side ahead of the string on the front side, and once you start it, it'll zip right across, and you'll have a clean open bag right there. Easy breezy, chicken greasy. It's also something else that's stuck in my head. Easy breezy, chicken greasy. Must be a southern thing. So we're going to be doing a heavy seeding rate. Normally you do about 50 to 75 pounds per acre of these seeds, but we're going to be putting it out at 100 pounds per acre because I think the deer are going to get in here because I don't have this field protected. So hopefully I can stay ahead of the herd. We'll be using the Solo front pack spreader, and we're not sponsored by Solo, just impressed. But I've had this thing for several years. I've replaced a few parts on it. It's still a current model that you can buy today. I'll put a link down below if I can find one of where you can purchase this. They might be on Amazon. You can do clover seed, you can do grain seed, and you can do big seed like these iron clay peas. Now it's probably going to take about 4 fillings of this to put out 100 pounds. We have a spreader for the back of the Summit TX25 that Summit provided for us. And I also have a spreader for the back of our ATV that would actually work behind this HISUN 750 as well. I want to put the seed out precisely, so I'm just going to go ahead and walk the field with it. They're a pea seed, so they're round. They'll go through that spreader easily. There's a few cracked ones in there, but for the most part, we got whole seeds. And like I said, these make these long 10 or 12 foot long vines and should cover this field nicely. We got all the seed spread and 100 pounds of seed. Each one of those bags filled this up about 3 times. So I came back and refilled it 6 times, went across the whole 1 acre, and I got really good coverage. And I would say that if you're planning on doing 1 acre of cow peas, that 100 pounds is the right amount. Hopefully we won't lose too many to the deer, but that's a good coverage. So I'm gonna go grab the Kubota with the tiller and also check in on Miss Piney Grove. I hear her mowing in the background. This HISUN Sector 750 just makes chores kind of fun to do. Kind of look forward to driving it instead of walking back here. Like she's mowed everything around the house. Yeah, she's mowed everything over there by the garden, it looks like. Oh, there she is. Lowering the mower deck, turning on the PTO. Let's see what she's up to. We say it every time she takes out that mower. She absolutely loves mowing. And until last year, she had never done any kind of zero-turn mowing. She just had a push mower for lawns before we got together 18 years ago. And this spring, as the grass started getting taller, she was excited to mow. I don't say it enough, but we want to thank all our subscribers for supporting us. If it weren't for you guys out there, we wouldn't have the opportunities that we have to demonstrate some of these machines. Anything that's orange or Kubota on this farm, we bought them all used to save some money. But the Summit tractor, the HISUN Sector 750, mowing equipment from Tractor Tools Direct, possibly some other things coming up. All of those things are because of you guys supporting us, you guys watching us. We appreciate your support and we love you guys for it. It's allowing us to live our dream out here. Done a little bit of tilling with both the tiller and the disc harrow here so that we get an idea of what each one can do. And I think it's obvious the difference, but I want to talk about why you would use one instead of the other. I think if you're looking to buy an implement to do tillage, you really can't go wrong with a tiller, but a disc has its place, and we'll talk about some of those things. So this is a fixed gang disc, and what that means is you can't change the angle on this disc. Well, you'll see some holes there where you can move the bolts, but they do make a different type of disc where you can actually move those gangs on the fly or quickly. So we got a 25 horsepower Summit tractor pulling 5-foot wide Summit disc harrow with 14-inch pans with the notched blades. And the notched blades are to help chop up some of this organic matter. If you had more of a finished field, you'd want the blades that were smooth so that they would be better at chopping and smoothing dirt. And here we have a 5-foot tiller behind a 39 horsepower Kubota tractor. You'll see is that the tiller is shorter than the disc. And we'll get into the actual tilling action, but where that's important is in a tight area where you're trying to turn around and stuff, the tiller is more maneuverable because it doesn't stick out as far behind the tractor. And also, a disc requires speed. Our soil right now is almost perfect for disking because it has the right amount of moisture, but a disc has to go fast because it relies on a throwing action. It takes ribbons of dirt and throws it against the other pans or throws it in the air, and those ribbons of dirt break up. And in order to have that breakup, you need speed. With a tiller, it's a constant speed type of implement. So when you engage your PTO on your tractor, all the tines on the tiller are already at a certain speed, and you can take that and back it up against the woods line. But you can see I can back that tiller right up against the woods, and I can get tillage and utilize every square foot of my field. Over here you see where I dropped the disc, and the disc needed like 10 feet or so before it really started tilling, and there's nothing you can do about that. The only thing you can do about that is come long ways down the field, and that's more passes. So that is the constraints of a disc versus a tiller as far as in tight spots. But now let's talk about the job that they do when they're actually tilling. It should be pretty obvious from this shot here the difference between the two. The tiller has gone down about that far, 6 inches or so, and taken all that soil and just chopped it really, really fine. And any debris that's in there, it is also chopped up and leaves this nice, smooth, fluffy seed bed. Now, one thing you'll run into with a tiller is if you have too much thatch, and that happens a lot. Like this has been mowed, but if it wasn't mowed, all these tall rye stems would wrap around the tiller, and you'd have to stop every once in a while and cut them out, or else you'd risk damaging the bearings on the tiller. But I would say we have perfect conditions here for a tiller, and this is what we've been doing a lot here in this plot. There's a downfall to getting your soil like this, is almost every particle in this soil has been broken down to its smallest amount. There's no dirt clods or anything like that. And so when you get that first rain, because all of the pieces of dirt are so small and there's a lot of clay material here, the rain will pack this, and this will be kind of, it's almost as fine as mortar, and it'll almost be like concrete. So it makes it a little bit harder for the plants to emerge through it when you have the soil type that we have. Now, tillers are a great machine, and you'll probably have no problem no matter what you plant, but we're talking about the differences between a tiller and a disc harrow. And another slight disadvantage, you can't control how much it tills. You can control how deep it tills, but you can't control how well it incorporates the thatch. And I want this thatch incorporated with the soil so it breaks down, but I also wouldn't mind a little bit of the thatch being in a more natural state or a less chopped up state. We spread these seeds on the ground, and those seeds aren't hurt at all, and you don't have to do anything else with this ground. Those seeds will come up, but because this is fluffier, you would like to come across here with some sort of packing device to pack that down, although the rain will pack it. So that's a little bit of a disadvantage to a tiller. But again, if I'm buying one implement, I'm gonna have a tiller instead of a disc harrow, although for different situations, I'd like to have both. Now let's talk about the disc harrow and how it works. So we talked about the fact that it cuts ribbons of dirt. So you will see that there's definite lines in the ground, and that's because that's the distance between these pans on the disc, and it takes that 10, however far apart the pans are, chunk of land, and it scoops it up and it throws it. And it throws it in the air here on this end disc, but on these other discs, it throws it into this disc. So the dirt comes from the center over here to this side, and then it throws it back to the center. And that action is what tills your land or breaks up your dirt clods. So in order to do that, you've got to be going pretty fast. With a disc harrow, you can raise it or lower it, so you can do deep tillage or light tillage. So that's something that it's probably an advantage to the disc harrow. But the biggest difference is a disc harrow is going to leave you with these dirt clods like this. And some of this green matter in here is going to continue to live even after you disked it, because all of the roots of this weed right here are all contained in that clod. So you can't get complete termination of anything that's in the field with a disc. With the tiller, everything that tilled is dead. It's broke up the roots, it's broke up the green matter on the top. So why would you disc? Here's why I like a disc. Number one, There's no PTO, and it is simply raise the disc, lower the disc, and go across the field. It's kind of a no-brainer type of implement, and the only thing you really have to worry about is how high or how low you put it. Now, a disc has no down pressure from the hydraulics on the tractor, because that's not how a tractor works. So sometimes you actually have to put weight on a disc if the soil's too dry. And that's the big disadvantage of a disc, is that your soil has to be perfect. If it's too wet, it's going to take those ribbons and you're going to have these big wet dirt clods that don't properly mix the soil and allow that good seed to soil contact. So a tiller will work in wet or in dry. In dry, if it's too dry with a disc harrow, it might ride on top because the soil is too hard for it to dig into and churn up. And then we talked about speed. If you're not going fast, you're not going to get that throwing action. And if you don't have fairly smooth fields, and I box bladed this field because it was pretty rough over the years, but I box bladed it to make it smooth, so I can go pretty fast across this field without beating me up. But if you're not going fast, you're not throwing dirt. So that's a disadvantage to the disc. And you can't get into tight corners like we talked about. In order to have a field that's disked from edge to edge, you got to go around it several times and come out 15 feet or so from the edge and then go back and forth like I'm doing now. Now, one thing you can do with a disc is make multiple passes, but the tiller's a one-pass machine. One pass and you're perfect. With a disc, if it's not smooth enough, then you keep going over it. It'll make it smoother, but that'll tend to pack the ground more. You want to go across the ground as minimal times with the tractor. But I'll leave you with one big advantage of a disc is on the tiller side, you see that smooth and that's beautiful, but I like these rough edges for erosion control because as water flows down the hill, it'll get in all these cracks and crevices, and all these little divots from the disc act as little dams or places for the water to slow down and sink in rather than wash across like it might do with the tiller where that soil is really loose and really mixed up. And I guess I had two good things about the disc to end with is that it doesn't chop up the thatch as much. So we talked earlier that I'm trying to build back up the top couple of inches of the soil. So I've got this completely intact rye root ball, and now that's going to be like on here on the top barely covered with soil. Whereas if it was over here, it would get chopped up in little tiny pieces and decompose very quickly on this side. Over here on the disc side, it'll decompose slower and it'll build more of this top layer of soil, where that same piece of thatch might be 4 inches deep over here. Over here, it might be 1 inch deep. Hopefully you found that a good explanation of the differences between a disc and a tiller. If you have any ideas or any thoughts that I forgot, be sure to leave them down in the comments down below. It'll not only help me be better, help me create better content, but lots of people watch our videos to learn about things like this, and they'll read your comments as well, and it might help them make a decision on what to buy or how to till their land. But that's going to wrap up today's video. We sure appreciate you watching. Like I said earlier, without your support, we are not Piney Grove Homestead, and we appreciate that. We love you guys for it. We hope you come back. We hope you subscribe. But until next time, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard.